Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here. So the structure of our programs, oftentimes we'll have a short program in addition to the long program, and it complements the longer program. I'd like to introduce our member, Eric Christensen, right now, who will set up our short program for the day. Eric.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the chairman of the club's Environmental Sustainability Committee. And I've been for the last several years on the board of NatureBridge. And in that capacity, I've gotten to know Stephen Streifert very well. Stephen, I forget what your title is now, Stephen. He does many jobs at NatureBridge, one of which is, for many years, he was the Pacific Northwest Regional Director in charge of operating the NatureBridge campus. When you'll see Stephen's background, you'll see Lake Crescent and kids in the canoe that they get to use when they visit the campus out there. We've supported NatureBridge with grants from the Service Foundation for several years now. And I think when Stephen speaks, he'll be able to demonstrate that those have had a tangible and important impact on the youth of this region, and as well as from the other kids from really around the country that have visited the NatureBridge Olympic campus. So Stephen, please take it away.
Great, thank you, Eric. Well, I'm pretty sure that Lake Crescent and Olympic National Park is not nearly this calm or pleasant as it is today, so I'm opting for the comforts of the Zoom background. I'm here to share a little bit about NatureBridge and our 3 to 5 day immersive environmental education programs for school kids in national parks. And in today's short program, I am hoping to expand your mental model of environmental education and why I believe programs like ours help to sustain our democracy. But let's start first by learning a little bit more about NatureBridge. And if a picture is worth 1,000 years, let's roll a 3-minute video to paint a more full picture. Thank you, Maria.
Yesterday, we went to school like a normal day, but it wasn't a normal day.
We went hiking on Mount Storm King up 2,280 feet.
There was a lot of times when we acted like we were scientists pretty much the whole day.
We tested the pH in the water, the dissolved oxygen, and the carbon dioxide.
I saw salamanders that I've never seen before. I've seen frogs, water striders, amazing cave systems.
I got to hold a sea slug. Can't say it was pleasant, but it was very interesting.
In the classroom, you have information that's fed to you, force fed to you. You read it, you get it, it's all, you learn it, but you don't experience it.
Outside, you're in the wilderness, learning about the wilderness. You're seeing it. You're feeling it. In the classroom, you can't physically understand it. You could only mentally understand it.
As much as I try to teach environmental conservation in the classroom, I'm not able to bring them and show them the habitats along a riverbed or a body of water. And being able to see and identify the things we're learning about in the classroom is such a cool connection.
It's a comprehensive experience. It's not just environmental education, but it's top to bottom.
They're bonding with each other, they're doing investigations, they're in the environment that hopefully they're learning to protect as they get older.
I realized what humans have done to Earth and how if we were just a little bit more friendly to the environment, we would see more of this everywhere.
Knowing the beauty of nature really makes me want to preserve it, and I want future generations to know how amazing and intriguing nature is as well. You can make differences no matter your age or who you are, and science is something everyone can share.
You can see a transformation in the kids, that they become more interested and excited and maybe even relaxed to a certain degree. Every aspect of it is life-changing, I think, to them.
It makes me feel joy.
It makes me feel alive.
It's really beautiful. Like, it's I don't think that you can really put into words the experience.
You know, and everyone feels it. It's not just one person. It's not just me. It's not just, you know, the educators that, you know, chose to be here. It's everyone that comes here gets the same sense of this just wild, untamed nature that really speaks to, I think, everyone that's come here. It's just an experience that you can't get anywhere else.
All right, Mariah, am I back on? Great. So for most of us, the pandemic has had a profound effect. In March, NatureBridge had 220 employees, including over 100 educators. In our 5 national park locations, we anticipated serving over 600 schools and close to 30,000 teachers and students in each school year. We were poised to award $1.5 million in scholarships, and over 50% of our students are kids of color. But being downstream from school choice and field trips being all but eliminated, we've canceled all our school programs for this academic year. We've reduced every possible expense and terminated over 75% of our staff. We are offering some online learning opportunities for our schools, and though we're pretty excited about what we're offering, it's just not the same. And we feel this deep paradox. At a time when we're closed, there's an unparalleled need for young people to connect to each other and to nature. And for those of us who have kids, we know that the ratio of green time to screen time is now way out of balance. Emotionally, to be honest, we're kind of crushed. And we're not alone. In this field of residential environmental education, there's upwards of 500 programs that are similar to NatureBridge around the country, 20 of them here in Washington. You might be familiar with Islandwood on Bainbridge Island or the North Cascades Institute, or you might even remember NatureBridge before we changed our brand name from the Olympic Park Institute. Nationally, our programs serve 1.5 to 2 million students each year. So the University of California, Berkeley recently came out with a study that showed the impact of the pandemic on the field of environmental education. And the study suggests that only 25% of programs believe that they will remain financially solvent if they're unable to run programs before 2021. This could be an extinction level event for this field. So what happens on these programs, and what are students missing by not being here? And as importantly, what lessons and experiences are not being provided to help shape society? Well, what are we dealing with today? Of course, there's the crisis of the pandemic and the 200,000 lives lost, but we're also in the crisis of coming to terms with our history of systemic racism. We're in a crisis of a struggling democracy. We're in a crisis of climate change. I can still feel the smoke in my lungs from last week's air. So programs like NatureBridge, yes, we focus on science and the environment, but just as much we focus on developing students' social and emotional skills to learn to listen and respect differences, to explore equity and justice. We provide experiences, tools, and motivation to help young people shape their futures they desire. So let's take a look at our programs in Olympic National Park to better understand what we do. And we're lucky enough to have the Elwha River as one of our primary classrooms. The Elwha, as you know, now flows free for the first time in 100 years. And this is a perfect laboratory, not just for the incredible lessons of watching the environment respond to the removal of the dams, but understanding how economic needs of communities change over time, and how at the time of dam construction, electricity was scarce and salmon were abundant. Flash forward to today and students understand that priorities do change. They recognize the value of a watershed that holds 75 miles of wilderness protected spawning habitat for salmon. Additionally, NatureBridge students explore the tough questions of why the lower Elwha-Clallan tribe was not part of the decision to build the dams, and witness how their persistent advocacy helped in the removal. Students discover there's a connection between how we treat one another and how we treat the land. Our students are engaged in conversations not just on how to manage a river or salmon or the value of national parks and public lands, but how race and class intersect with the outdoors. And as important, students discover that the Elwha is a tangible case study of people working together for positive change and the persistence needed for bipartisanship and innovative thinking to triumph. And what an important lesson for our kids who face the burden of today's challenges. So I hope you can see that NatureBridge in the field of environmental education isn't just about the environment, but it's the exploration of the systems and connections and intersections between the environment and the economy and equity, all embedded in a transformational educational experience in awe-inspiring natural places like our national parks. I'm going to pause for a second and share a screenshot here. Well, maybe I will not find the picture of Bill Bradley. Am I back to me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Senator Bill Bradley is the NBA star presidential candidate, and he helped to author the federal legislation that guided the dam removal. And in 2017, we invited Senator Bradley and Governor Evans to speak about the lessons of the Elwha. And when he finished, I asked him for a copy of his speech, and he gave it to me. And these closing paragraphs continue to guide my work, and they bolster my belief in the importance. So here's his words. And just a forewarning, I might get choked up because these are powerful. So here we go. So the reflection you see in the Elwha is an image of what our country is capable of, not only in the past, but tomorrow and years from now, for our children and grandchildren, when they're calling the shots and deciding whether and how to work with each other and defining the public interest. Here in the success of our collective action for the Elwha is a template for success on climate change, energy policy, species protections, and hundreds of other non-land issues. There's inspirational power is what has happened to the Elwha, and as the salmon return and the dippers and herons and bears crowd the bank, as justice is done for Native people, you will have here something that moves lives and inspires people thousands of miles and continents away from here. It's a compelling empirical proof of the health and practical genius of our own democracy. Indeed, the words emanating from the canyons through which the Elwha now flows are science, reason, courage, and public interest. And those are not words of a story that has an end. And I want visitors to the Elwha to savor the river for its beauty and for the wild, successful results of dam removal. But I also want visitors to the Elwha, including students participating in the NatureBridge program, to understand they are present at the beginning of something wonderful, not just the after party. For every time we do America right, we set the stage to do right again. Every time we manage to honor our best traditions and values, we show we can do so again. And every instance of hard work that brings justice proves we can have a just society. With the Elwha, we restored honor, we kept promises, we rewarded stewardship, we did the right thing. Indeed, the great gift of the Elwha is that one essential thing for our country, and that's hope. So as NatureBridge enters our 50th year and we take a pause in this pandemic, we hope that you'll continue to join and support us as we give students the kind of experiences that we hope will shape our democracy in the future. Thank you for your time today.
Stephen, thank you so much, and for the work that your organization does. It's pretty clear that those young people in the video, they really get it. They really get the value of what it means to connect with and to preserve and protect our natural spaces. Keep up the good work. I love your passion for what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Let's now move on to our main program. I read up a little bit on our member, Edie Hilliard. I didn't realize she grew up in Skagit County, but I like her even more now. Edie spent a career in the broadcast industry and was really a rock star in the radio industry during her career. After retirement, she is working on the environment and natural spaces, and she is here now to introduce our main program. Edie, take it away.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark. We're in Washington. We in Washington are blessed to have 3 amazing and unique national parks: North Cascades, the Olympic, and Mount Rainier. The Washington National Park Fund is the organization whose sole purpose is to support these 3 parks, and we're joined by a number of passionate, committed members and staff of that organization. We welcome you. Chip Jenkins began his national park career as a seasonal ranger in the North Cascades at Stehekin 34 years ago. He's worked in 7 national parks as superintendent in several, including back in North Cascades. Just prior to coming to Mount Rainier 2.5 years ago, Chip served as acting superintendent at Yosemite. And we're glad to have him back as superintendent at Mount Rainier. Rachel Collins is the Visitor Use Project Manager for the National Park Service. She works with park superintendents all over the country to develop processes and products that enhance user experience while protecting resources. Sustainable management of our parks has been a growing challenge for years, exacerbated now by what COVID has meant in terms of travel and recreation. There's probably nobody better able than these two to help us understand the challenges and opportunities at our parks in this wild year. Chip and Rachel, screen's yours.
Thanks, Edie. Appreciate it. Thank you for everybody. You know, it's always a pleasure to be able to join Rotarians because the humanitarian work that you do and the perspective that you bring. And Stephen, thanks. You know, I've been a big fan of your work for years, and it was great to get a reminder and to be able to see the kids. So, you know, we're here. What a remarkable year it has been, right? What a truly remarkable year, and it is one of the things. One of the things I would invite you all to do, and Rachel, can you go to the second slide, please? Is I invite all of you to pause for a second here. Just kind of indulge me, will you? And take a deep breath and think about when was the last time you felt most fully alive? When was the last time that you felt most connected to yourself or perhaps with your family and friends? I bet for many of us, it was doing something fun outdoors. For many, many people, doing that outdoor fun thing is on public lands, whether it's the national parks, national forests, Bureau of Land Management, other lands that you own. For those of us who work on public lands, we call this the visitor experience. And for many industries, you carefully manage your visitor experience, what your customers, what your clients, what they experience when they interact with your business. At the National Park Service, for the National Forest, for the Bureau of Land Management, for other land management agencies, we do this too. Next slide, Rachel. Oh, one too many. Oh, wait. And for the National Park Service, one of the many resources that we manage, just as we manage for and steward wildlife and clean water and preserving historic buildings, we manage for the visitor experience. Hopefully we manage in order to be able to create great visitor experience. We do this in partnership with many other people. We do this with the people who visit the parks. We do this with organizations like NatureBridge and like Washington's National Park Fund. Why do we do this? It's part of our fundamental mission. It's part of what the National Park Service is supposed to be doing, in part to be able to create a positive visitor experience that help us as individuals and help communities do all of the things that are listed on this slide. But there are many challenges for us. And so, Rachel, let's go to you to start to fill in on what some of these challenges are and what we're doing about it.
Great, thanks, Chip. So I'm going to kind of walk us through some of the issues and opportunities that we're facing, and also then give it some context for what that means for the parks that are close to your home. So one of the things that we have seen over time is that folks love their public lands, and that is a wonderful thing. The top two graphs that you're seeing on the slide now are National Park Service visitation over time, as well as BLM visitation. And even though there are some increases and declines in that trend line, the overall trend line is up. This is not a problem. This is an opportunity. This means that people are getting outside, they are connecting with their public lands, and there is nothing we love more than that. Close to home, y'all are seeing too, that visitation to Pacific Northwest National Parks, as well as Forest Service sites in the Pacific Northwest, are also up over time. Again, a wonderful opportunity that folks are out experiencing their parks, connecting with those resources, connecting with those experiences. This is a wonderful trend line to see. Even this summer, we're seeing some really interesting things happen. As Chip said, people are getting outside, they're re-exploring the outdoors, either as a first-time visitor or as a visitor who's been there many, many times. So these graphics are from a study that the Leave No Trace organization did this summer. And one of the things that we're seeing is that over time, as the course of the summer has gone on, people have more and more gotten back to what they call their normal outdoor recreation. And we're seeing that's 5 days a week that people are getting outside and exploring the outdoors. Those recreationists are becoming more and more aware over time that there might be some long-term changes to their recreation. And they also, the vast majority of them strongly agree that public land agencies have a role in taking action to make sure that these places stay open, that these places stay protected, and that we're providing an experience that's predictable and that's enjoyable as well as safe for them to be on. And so that's some of the things that we want to continue to talk about and unpack in this presentation about how do we capitalize on the opportunity of so many people coming to public lands while also providing management frames and strategies that allow for that to continue to grow. So one of the things that we talk a lot about is this construct of visitor use management and what that means. You're going to hear me use that term a couple of times. One of the things that we're seeing in these nationwide trends is that it means that all of us, so that's park managers, that's other public land managers, visitors, citizens, stakeholders, everybody in our larger community has a role in finding effective ways to make sure that we are sustainably managing use of these lands to ensure that those places are here this summer, that they're here next summer, that they're here 20 summers from now, and 50 summers after that. And the image that you're seeing on your screen now is all of those purple dots are flickered photos of folks on or near public land in your neighborhood. That's a lot of people. And that's a lot of people who want to be there, and we want to make sure that they can continue to go there. So when we take those ideas and we think about them in the context of the National Park Service, we have a couple objectives when it comes to visitor use management as an agency. One of those is to really enhance those opportunities to connect visitors to critical experiences and to key experience. Each National Park Service unit has a purpose, has a significance in the national story of our cultural and our national heritage. We want to be connecting people to those stories and to those resources. We want to be implementing effective tools that help improve those experiences over time and really do a good job of connecting the issues with opportunities to continue to grow and evolve and implementation strategies that everybody sees themselves in and everybody wants to be a part of. One of the tools that we're using to move forward in that process is this framework, and that's the circle graphic on the screen. This framework was developed by the Interagency Visitor Use Management Council, and that's a council of 6 federal land management agencies that all came together to develop collective guidance on how we manage use on federal lands. One of the things we saw over time was that all of the folks who are recreating, they don't care who manages the land, whether it's BLM or the Forest Service or the Park Service. They want clear direction on where they can go and how to be there and what the best experiences are. So the agencies wanted to make sure that we were all talking from the same guidance. And so that's what this council guidance does. The Park Service has fully integrated this council guidance into how we manage and to the processes that we use. And we know that when we invest in these processes, when we invest in intentional and proactive visitor use management of our public lands, we have the ability to critically enhance high quality experiences, protect those fundamental resources and values that were the reason those places were set aside, that we develop a long-term advocacy and really focus on those enhanced relationships where we, as a larger community, land managers, public, stakeholders, community members, all see themselves as a part of those innovative solutions that help us evaluate and look towards emerging and dynamic needs as we go forward. So wanted to spend a little bit talking about the how. So what does that look like? What are some of big picture, the things that the Park Service is working on to really start to meet these objectives? So I'm going to walk you through a couple buckets of strategies or types of strategies and give you guys a little bit of context for what those look like. So on the operational side, there are a number of noteworthy activities where the Park Service staff are actively working to improve access and the visitor experience to address safety needs and ensure resources are protected. So many parks are actively making day-to-day operational changes, especially over the last handful of summers. These help us address immediate visitor use needs that might look at staffing at parking areas, entrance gate lines, up-to-date trip planning information, and help us kind of look at what that experience looks like. Also, some parks have taken on pilot projects and then follow up with a longer-term planning solution. The example that's there on the slide is the Haleakala Sunrise Permit Program, initiated as a pilot to test, experiment, look at technology implications for that before turning that into a long-term permanent solution for their unit. We also understand that communication and education play a significant role in providing a quality experience and addressing safety needs. So we really want visitors to be able to make meaningful connections to parks resources and values. These tools can help us positively influence visitor behavior, use patterns, and how they contribute to a larger national dialogue about visitor use management on our public lands. So some examples of communication efforts that are going on service-wide include web and social media alerts to let folks know about what resources are available to them and changing conditions. Park trip planning publications, variable message signs, leave no trace education. One of the things that we're really spending a bunch of energy and time on is trying to really think about which messages at what time in what places really enable visitors and the public to make informed decisions about their visit. And so that that visit is as high quality as it can be and meets with their expectations. Although a lot of these strategies are very important for the ongoing management and use of some parks, there are a handful of units, and you might have seen news articles about some of them, that are finding that the level of demand is significantly outpacing the agency's ability to sustainably manage use levels. And this has resulted in the need to explore new types of managed access strategies. And this is not just one strategy, but a whole bucket of strategies. So while these parks continue to look at operational changes, education, signage, potential infrastructure changes, they're also exploring managed access at entry points, key destination areas, and other travel corridors to help enhance that other bucket of strategies, to help enhance that larger strategy frame that they're working on. So some examples of managed access strategies that you might have had experience with include camping permits. I bet a lot of people have had a camping permit before. You have examples like ticketed entry. So the Park Service uses that at places like Independence Hall and Ford's Theater. Many other museums use this as well. Things like reservations. So some examples of that are the Haleakala Sunrise, Acadia Sunrise, Hanging Lake in the Forest Service, Machu Picchu is on a reservation system, and Baxter State Park in the state of Maine, also on reservation systems for access. Another example is timed entry. So examples of that, Acadia's Ocean Drive, Muir Woods, new system that got stand up a couple years ago, Zion's Angels Landing and Pilot, a couple other pilots like Rocky Mountain and Yosemite in the summer for COVID. But some other ones around the world include the Eiffel Tower, the Smithsonian, and the Anne Frank Museum all use timed entry. Some other examples include managed access queues. You might see the most famous ones that you see as a managed queue are amusement park rides. That's a managed queue, but we can look at other contexts to implement managed queues, and some Forest Service sites use this. You kind of hear it as the one car in, one car out, and other lotteries like the Half Dome permit system. So some examples of, well, the variety of different types of strategies that are a part of that suite. One of the things that comes up really frequently when we talk about these types of issues and opportunities on public land is, so what about transportation and congestion management? I think one of the favorite parts of my job is that for us at the Park Service, transportation is both a tool for access and it's also a key visitor experience. we really want to make sure that those transportation facilities and services are providing high quality access to sites. And so we want to be designing and allocating transportation resources and critically using those as a tool in our toolbox. For us and for a lot of other public land management agencies, transportation is also a key part of the visitor experience. This driving along key cultural resources like glaciers going to the Sun Road, Trail Ridge Road in Rocky Mountain, and the Road to Paradise in Mount Rainier are cultural resources. They are experiences in and of themselves. We want to protect that experience as well, whether it's driving along that historic road, hearing interpretation on the Eisenhower shuttle, or getting to see some of those great scenic vistas. We want to be ensuring that our transportation systems are providing seamless connections to parks, and then they're not distracting from experiences by causing barriers to access or unnecessary delays. We have a number of recent transportation plans that are really capitalizing on all our current guidance and on emerging technology, and some examples are listed there on the screen. We're also spending a fair bit of time really looking into visitor information and technology improvements in parks. We want to be really thinking critically about context and what that means to be applying these in the Park Service setting. And each park's context is a little bit different, but we want to be looking at access improvements, how we send along information, again, the where and the why and what messages, how we might translate parking information in a way that really helps inform decision making as we enter into parks, and also thinking about road status, condition, closures, those kinds of things. For a lot of you guys who have been to national parks, you know that these are dynamic places in dynamic systems, in dynamic ecosystems, and we want to make sure that people have all the information they need to make great decisions about how they visit. So we wanted to drive it home a little bit more and talk a little bit about this current process that we're in with Mount Rainier National Park. Mount Rainier, one of our first national parks, one of the oldest national parks, and really represents some of these critical both natural and cultural resources in balance. And we are providing opportunities at this park to really experience, understand, and care for this dynamic and really unique ecosystem. Also with really great access to cultural resources and to wilderness. So similar to what we talked about on a national and a regional scale, we're also seeing similar trends at Mount Rainier more specifically. So 30% increase in visitation between 2008 and 2018. Again, this is a great opportunity. More people are coming to parks, and that means more opportunity to connect to the resources. So one of the things we're thinking about is a big chunk of that visitation happens in the summer months. And you can see on the slide, that's just July visitation. That's July to July over time. And a lot of this use is concentrated in a small number of destinations. And so we want to start thinking about, for Mount Rainier specifically, what does it look like to provide sustainable, well-managed access to the park, to these resources, to the experiences for the long term. So for the current process that we're in right now, and Chip's going to tell you a little bit more about it in a second, is we are looking to really examine those current and potential visitor opportunities and develop long-term strategies and multiple strategies, a collection of strategies to provide safe access and connect visitors to experiences. We want to be leveraging best practices from around not only our agency, but all the federal land management agencies about how to protect those resources and promote high quality experiences, and also provide protection and connection to the critical resources in Paradise Meadows. So like I said, we are in an active public engagement process right now, have been for the last couple of weeks, and it's going to be going on for another couple of weeks. So I'm going to turn it back to Chip to tell you a little bit more about the current engagement effort that we're in and how you can be involved.
Yeah, hey, it's, thanks Rachel, I appreciate it. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk with so many people who care about their national parks here in Washington State. And as Rachel said, if you look at the trend line of visitation, and if you have visited Mount Rainier, say on a weekend in the last 8 weeks, you may have experienced some challenges that will likely continue to grow. Challenges of wait times at entrance gates that can get up to 2 hours. or finding yourself at Paradise or Longmire and needing to orbit around trying to find a parking space and taking maybe an hour to do that. So what on non-peak times, people may be able to come and, you know, drive from Seattle, drive down in 2.5 hours and be able to start their hike. It's now not uncommon for people on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays for people to have a 5-hour journey just to get to the trailhead. And so we're concerned about that, and we're concerned about what the future might bring. And so what we're trying to do right now is talk with people such as yourselves and work with organizations to be able to share information with other people to be able to see, do people see that there is a challenge here? Do people see how we are doing with our visitor experience? Should we be entertaining and exploring different management strategies in order to be able to try to preserve a high quality visitor experience? And I'll tell you, it's been kind of funny. There are those folks who immediately say, create a shuttle system. And my response to that is, exactly what problem is the shuttle system a solution to? Because where we are right now is we're trying to understand what the problems are that people are facing, and then we can move to conversations about what the solutions are. So the best thing that people can do is go to the link that's on the slide here. There's a bunch more information, as well as a form where people can easily be able to provide us some comments. There are even 4 questions to serve as prompts as a way to people to be able to give us their thoughts. So I know that there's all sorts of other questions and things that people would like to get to. So why don't we just go to the Q&A?
I got one job today to hit the unmute button, just one, and I messed it up. Chip and Dr. Collins, thank you so much. We have lots of questions floating in. So I'm going to start with Kathy Gibson's, which is, are there any new national parks planned for the future?
Well, it's an interesting thing, right? Because actually the National Park Service doesn't create new national parks. It's actually you guys, through your elected officials, that you identify stories or places or things that ought to be considered for inclusion in your national park system. And there is actually a study process. Generally speaking, Congress passes a law that authorizes a study to be done, usually by the National Park Service. And then we form recommendations that we provide back to the administration and to Congress for inclusion. The most recent unit to the National Park Service was just dedicated a couple of weeks ago, and it was a very small place, the Dwight David Eisenhower National Memorial. In terms of currently there's not a lot of new area studies that are currently going on, but that kind of waxes and wanes over time.
All right, very good. Next question. Do you have suggestions for group activities in parks during COVID?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is for people to be able to pay attention to their local county public health guidance in terms of what's recommended to do. And then we also really encourage people to recreate responsibly. So taking into account the things that you need to do in order to be able to keep yourself safe, other parties safe, and employees safe. And so it's keeping group size small, traveling with your household, and then making sure that you are packing in and packing it out and coming prepared to be entirely self-sufficient. Outside of that, the other thing is we are seeing substantial changes in visitation, and on weekends, particularly on beautiful, spectacular weekends, we're seeing places that people consider kind of the bucket list. Coming to Paradise, Sunrise, some of the popular national forest trails as being very, very heavily visited. And so what you might want to do is consider going to some of the other places that people, some of the less visited places that people like to go.
Yeah, these all sound like really hard, tough problems to have, right? I mean, you've got such influx. It's amazing. We were talking about this in prep for this for this meeting today that, instead of going to Italy, we're going in our own backyard, which is kind of cool.
Right. It's an interesting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. At Mount Rainier, in a normal year, we would see between 10 and 15% of our summer visitation would be from abroad. And maybe 3 to 5% would be people from Alaska cruise ships. And then people traveling from the other part of the country. Well, our visitation levels in July and August were normal. And so if we were not having that people coming for the Alaska cruise ships or coming from abroad, that means that we have a whole bunch more people from the Pacific Northwest who have been visiting the park.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
I think the other interesting trend that we see
in Western Washington's national parks.
Oh, can you say that one more time?
We're curious how the fires have affected the Western national parks.
Well, kind of depends on where you are. Actually, the vast majority of fires are actually not in national parks, but they're on national forest and on state lands. Like all of you, we've been sucking a lot of smoke. And we saw all across the West, we've seen a significant decrease in visitation just as people are staying indoors and not participating in outdoor recreational opportunities.
To that then, here's an interesting question. How can we avoid having outings canceled? Our family had a backpacking outing in the Olympic Park canceled at the last minute, which led to major disappointment.
Yep, of course, that would be disappointing. And I'm not quite sure when that might have happened. I know that early on in the pandemic, in March, April, and May, most of the park units were closed or had significant access reduced. In June, we started to open back up again, but we had to take steps in order to be able to reduce the density at which people were using the backcountry campsites. And so that did lead to some cancellations. What I would suggest going forward is we all need to be working together collaboratively in order to try to maintain our community health so that we are, and that is that's kind of the path forward for being able to recreate outdoors and for schools to function and for all of the other things to be going on.
Dr. Collins, did I miss a response from you earlier? Did I chat over you? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And Rachel's fine. But the thing I was going to say in response to looking at, how are people getting outside and how does that relate to international visitation is, we talked a lot in 2016 and 17 about this big increase in Park Service visitors. But if you look at the data, that trend line actually starts back in 2011 and 2012. That started to see when we started to see these big increases in visitation. So I would just throw that out to the group as you can kind of start to think about what was happening in 2011 and 2012 that might have driven people to want to recreate closer to home.
Yeah.
And it starts us, and then as a scientist, it makes me start to think about, so what does that mean for us for the next 10 years? Because we tend, even though we see increases and decreases, the long-term trend is up.
Okay, well, to that then, this is an interesting question. What is being done to you when using media to widely publicize reservations and requirements for ticketed entry to avoid the disappointment of visitors who drive to the park and wait in long periods to enter? Part one. Two, is your public information provided in multi-languages besides English?
So Rachel, let me take the second part, and you can take the first part, which is so that we are, so at Mount Rainier, we actually just launched a Spanish language website, and we do have publications that are in multiple different languages. In terms of how we go about providing information to people about trip planning, particularly when it deals with things like permits or tickets, Rachel has some experience in terms of the day use reservations that at Rocky Mountain and Yosemite implemented this year. You want to pick that up, Rachel?
Sure. Yeah, I think, one of the things that we're seeing as far as thinking about reservations, ticketed entry, kind of any of those managed access solutions is that the communication is key on it. And so they're not a standalone solution. They're a solution to be used in conjunction with many other strategies. One of them is really getting the word out for folks to let them know about what their visit looks like and how to plan for it. I actually, one of the things that we've heard back from visitors as we've implemented these strategies is that it allows them to trip plan in a more productive way. Some of the things we're seeing now, especially, so Acadia has a new system coming online next month. And one of the things that people were super frustrated for was because the Cadillac Mountain Road was getting so jammed with visitors that ambulances couldn't get to the top, we were having to swing the gate at that entrance just to clear the road out, which meant if you were an average visitor and you just tried to show up, you didn't know what to expect. You didn't know that that condition was happening. You might have made a different choice about your day, about when you prioritized that experience, had you known what you would encounter. And so a lot of folks are saying, this is not only a valuable management tool, but it's a valuable communications tool and a trip planning tool to help people understand when are the lower volume times of day, what to expect when they get there, how to proactively plan their trip, because there are a lot of spontaneous visitors, but then there's also a lot of people who plan these trips way in advance. And we want to make sure that all visitors know what to expect and have access to the resources that they're trying to access. And have a right-sized expectation for what that looks like. And so I think that strategy becomes multifaceted from that perspective, and that's why there's always big pushes of information to let folks know this is what to expect, this is how to access, and this is what the experience looks like.
That's interesting that you bring that up, and the statement you made earlier too, which is how do you manage that with so many people from around the world, maybe not now, but soon, coming back, right? So it's not just for us in your own backyard, but it's literally, as you said, for the people on the boats. It's for, you're heading into the Northwest, you're heading to the West Coast, Northwest. I want to hit Rainier, right? Which I'm sure is on most people's check. It is for most of us around here, as you mentioned. So I would just encourage you, obviously, to keep that up. I got time for a 30-second question. You ready for this? Permits, reservations, and other limitations to visitors can be exclusionary and intimidating. What is the National Park Service doing to get more diverse visitors to the park? You've got 15 seconds.
I think we are actually, if you come up to Mount Rainier on a Saturday at 10 o'clock, just going by one measure of diversity, people's skin color, you will be surprised by the amount of diversity visiting now. But we have a ways to go, and we want to make sure that everyone understands that they are welcome to their national parks.
Okay, very good. I like that. Rachel Collins, Dr. Rachel Collins, anything you need to add to that? I'll give you 5 seconds.
I don't. Chip always does such a good job.
You done? All right. To the two of you, thank you so much. Awesome presentation. For those that I did not get to the questions, I'm so sorry. Again, every week I say the same thing. So thank you both. Awesome presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for having us.